Hello and welcome to iamrivenous' channel. Rivenous says he sucks at intro, so I'm taking one for the team. Version 1.6 brings us two new drive sets, the Shadow Harmony and Phaethons Melody. So our GigaChad Rivenous did what any sane person definitely wouldn't do, recalculate every single anomaly agent and their teams to figure out whether you should waste your precious battery charge farming them. And with that, I'm out of here. Don't forget to subscribe to I Win to Lose Gaming while you're at it. Oh, and subscribe to this guy too.
Well, thank you, I Win to Lose. To preface this video, Shadow Harmony is obviously meant for Soldier Zero anby, and if you're planning on pulling for Sanby, you will be farming this set. Phaethons Melody is also very clearly meant for a future character, but let's still have a look at who might be able to use this set, as you will inevitably obtain a few of them if you are farming for Sanby anyways. And hint, yes, it might change some builds. Outside of Soldier Zero anby and Pulchra, Alan and Harumasa are the next primary users of Shadow Harmony. While it is an option to boost Pulchra's personal damage, her damage contribution is already low in the first place, so running a supportive set on Pulchra such as Protopunk, Astral Voice or even Freedom Blues is a much better choice in regards to team damage. If you want to know more on Pulchra or Sanby and how good this set is on them, I've linked both of my guides down below, so go check them out after this video if you haven't yet. While Harumasa can make use of both the 2-piece and 4-piece Shadow Harmony, especially the 4-piece is not necessarily better than a 4-piece Thunder Metal. The 2-piece option is actually pretty close to its other options, which means depending on the substats, it is actually not too bad of a choice. Lastly, Ellen. Is it actually her new best set? Well, no, but it is good enough to rank directly in between Polar Metal and Woodpecker. While it is not her new best in slot set and frankly quite a bit below a fully stacked Woodpecker if you haven't built your Ellen yet, and you do have a few leftover pieces, it is actually not too bad of a choice for her. Let's talk about Phaethons Melody, because there is much more to say to this set. Obvious contenders to the set in either their 2-piece or even 4-piece form are all anomaly units as well as Nicole. Nicole is often used as a support for, well, many teams, but specifically Sujuan. That is not only because of the buffs and debuffs she provides, but also because of her anomaly application, which is meant to supply enough ether anomaly and hence corruption to keep Chaos Metal's 4-piece effect active on Sujuan. Another use case are anomaly teams such as Miyabi, Yanagi, Nicole, in which higher anomaly application possibly leads to additional disorders which can benefit Miyabi. To keep this short, neither the 2-piece nor the 4-piece set are particularly useful on her, outside of a very few niche situations in regards to very specific rotations. The 4-piece set grants her about 16% more personal damage, but instead you give up some damage bonus on your main carries, which is honestly much more than 52k damage from Nicole itself. TLDR here being, unless you have a very specific plan, this set is not necessarily worth it, neither the 2-piece nor the 4-piece. Next up are the anomaly units, so let's start with Burnice, because she is currently on the banner. While I would personally not recommend going for a 4-piece Melody, which is just straight up worse than her other options, especially a 4-piece Chaos Jazz, a 2-piece Melody on the other hand can actually be really good. However, the answer depends on a few more factors, namely the environment as well as the teams. For the environment, because Shio defense is generally speaking taking less time than Deadly Assault does, Burnice's resources also matter a little bit less, which means going for a slightly higher anomaly application usually mostly results in you proccing burn about 1.5 seconds earlier for the first burn and about 3 seconds earlier for the third burn, which in fact also results in getting 1 additional burn given 11 afterburn procs. Whether or not that is actually helpful will depend a lot on your team and yourself. If your other anomaly unit cannot make use of the earlier burn proc, this might just create a larger gap in between the first disorder, resulting in overall lower damage. This also means you might have to adjust your playstyle a little bit, and whether or not the additional burn is actually worth it will largely depend on that. However, a 2-piece Melody will give you the additional burn, so especially when looking at Miyabi, this can essentially give you a possible additional disorder to battery her. The real winner here, however, is Deadly Assault. Due to the increased length of the game mode, you are often able to rotate through your units multiple times, which will result in additional burn procs, or at least in a higher anomaly application for energy spent on Burnice. One of Burnice's biggest problems in Deadly Assault, especially without her signature, are her energy costs in relation to her burn application. Running additional Anomaly Mastery can save her energy and make her hands somewhat also smoother to play. TLDR here being, the 2-piece Melody is actually really good on Burnice, and I would recommend it for her regardless of the game mode, as a single better substat on the 2-piece Melody can already swing the total damage in favor of Melody regardless. As of right now, Yanagi is usually played with a 4-piece Chaos Jazz or a 4-piece Thunder Metal, with Chaos Jazz being the overall best choice, especially since literally nobody plays her in a mono electric team. And keeping a good uptime on Thunder Metal in disorder teams is a task in itself, even if its potential is higher in theory. That said, the 2-piece and 4-piece Melody set do surprisingly well on her. For the 4-piece specifically, a single better substat can be enough to outperform a 4-piece Chaos Jets, even if it is just slightly. Which also means a 4-piece Melody is indeed a viable choice for her, and that is disregarding the possible advantage the 2-piece set can give. Speaking of which, let's talk a little bit more about the 2-piece. Generally speaking, unless you know exactly what you are doing, a 2-piece Melody alone will not necessarily be better than a 2-piece Freedom. There are very specific scenarios which require a good understanding of Yanagi's possible rotations to actually make use of this. An example here being her first parry combo of parry into assist follow-up into basic 3, 4 and 5 into special into EX special. This will actually leave you just slightly short on anomaly for the first rotation, which also means you are missing out on the polarity disorder, and hence you would be required to add in an additional basic 3. Using a 2-piece Melody, however, the additional 8% anomaly mastery will be just enough to trigger shock and hence the polarity disorder from her EX special. These are the kind of situations I mean, and that generally means unless you have a very specific plan within a very specific team within a very specific environment, the 8% anomaly mastery will not actually do anything for most players, and running a 2-piece Freedom instead is usually the safer and better choice. For Grace, neither the 2-piece Melody nor the 4-piece are a better choice than her other options, namely a 4-piece Thunder Metal or 4-piece Chaos Jazz. Thunder Metal has a harder time to maintain a good uptime within disorder teams, whereas a 4-piece Chaos Jazz has lower potential but allows for more flexibility. A 2-piece Melody can technically be better than a 2-piece Thunder Metal, but that only is the case when your substats are better. The actual 2-piece bonus of 8% anomaly mastery will rarely actually help you out, and in fact more often than not result in anomaly application being wasted. TLDR here being, if you have not built your Grace yet, but you plan on doing it and you have a lot of good leftover Melody pieces, you can go for a 2-piece, but otherwise I would not recommend it. A 4-piece Melody basically guarantees you 45 AP during every single EX special for its full duration, but that does not necessarily translate into more damage. In fact, a 4-piece Melody has been just about 10% worse in both my testing and my calculations. The 2-piece Melody, however, as it by now is a trend for most units, can be just as good as a 2-piece Freedom, that is, if you can make actual use of the additional anomaly build-up you gain from it. While I would not recommend it yet again for sheer defense, it can be a valid and good choice for Deadly Assault, as it will grant you 1 or 2 additional disorders throughout the 3 minutes. If you have better substats on the 2-piece Melody, it is a good choice regardless, however a 2-piece Freedom will always be a safe choice. It should also be noted that a 2-piece Melody will help you maintain the set effect of 4-piece Fang just a little bit easier, though for Piper that usually has not been a problem regardless. Jane has been somewhat interesting. Generally speaking, I achieved similar clear times whether I was using a 4-piece Fanged Metal or a 4-piece Melody, often with just a 2-second difference. However, there are two important points to talk about here which I have not mentioned yet. First of all, a 2-second difference is definitely due to error in play and hence within a margin of error for the sake of comparison. Secondly, and more importantly, my Jane's builds have been not great. And that is for a reason. First of all, I am too lazy to farm up for super good unrelatable builds, but more importantly, it is to verify my calculations. A 4-piece Melody can indeed be a very valid choice if your build is bad, and by bad I mean you are just barely hitting the 420 AP threshold, or not at all. Generally speaking, the less anomaly proficiency you have, the better a 4-piece Melody will become. And when looking at the 2-piece, the opposite will be true. The better your build is, the better a 2-piece Melody can be. Whether or not that actually is the case will again largely depend on how much you make use of the additional anomaly builder. However, it at least makes Jane feel quite a bit smoother since her build up does not feel super great in the first place. For Miyabi, we can keep this section relatively short. The 8% additional anomaly mastery does not actually do much, but instead a 2-piece Melody makes your Miyabi just a bit harder to build since you are now missing at least 8% crit rate from 2-piece Woodpecker, which also means we are now better off using crit rate in slot 4. And with that we are already at the end, so let's summarize our results. A 4-piece Shadows Harmony is best in slot for Soldier Zero Anby and is a damage oriented but not optimal choice for Pulchra. The 2-piece Harmony is a good alternative for Harumasa, and the 4-piece works surprisingly well on Ellen as well, but it is a bit behind her best in slot option. A 2-piece Phaethons Melody is great and potentially better than previous choices for specifically Burnice, especially in Deadly Assault. It is a viable and good choice for Jane. It can be fantastic on Yanagi, but it requires very good knowledge on some of her specific rotations and scenarios, as well as a constant good execution of those, which means I would not recommend this for most players. It is an alternative for both Piper and Grace, but I would not recommend farming the set for these two units specifically, and it is not a great choice for Miyabi. A 4-piece Melody is usually a worse choice on nearly every single unit, with the exception being Jane, if you have troubles hitting the 420 anomaly proficiency breakpoint, and only then. Lastly, for Nicole, I would not recommend the set for her, regardless of whether we are talking about the 2-piece or 4-piece, albeit the 2-piece might have some very specific niche scenarios, which at least I did not seem to find. And with that, we are at the end of the video. Like and subscribe, leave a comment on whether or not you are pulling for Soldier Zero Anby and Pulchra or not, join the Discord, and have a great day. Peace.